Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Close enough? I'm always early. The problem I've got. I don't know how to be late. Good candy. I'm having a great retreat. I haven't fallen. You should be proud of me. Mm. So a couple of questions which are similar. I'm not sure whether my understanding is correct that Buddhism, we believe in reincarnation. But that is the reason when I first was interested in meditation is I don't want to be born again. After years of practices, I realized that one must not aim to attain anything, just trust and awareness. As everything is changing due to cause and effect, the question is, can one still have a goal such as not to be born again, even though no one knows how long it will take? Just keep practicing, have at least 5 precepts of sila, trust, your awareness, etc. No rushing, no hoping, no expecting, not doing as there is no doer. Or should we not aim at all? Okay, that's one. And the second one is kind of in the same vein. You have been very clear in explaining the Aryapugala, but still there is a question. Is there a moment in the practice which can be called enlightened moment? Okay, so second one first. Enlightened moment, obviously there is. If we have this, I'm always fidgeting. If you have the story of the Buddha, obviously there's enlightenment, but that story is so loaded with mythology and culture, it's hard to make it human. So amazing, the story. So a more contemporary story is contemporary Ajahns, but my most clear statement of that possibility of enlightenment is from Luangpor Liam's biography, which I think most of us have read, No Worries. And among the many things is a very inspiring piece, but it's also just very clear language. I don't think it's not couched in this kind of esoteric Pali language of attainments or samadhis. And it's obviously a very profound enlightenment that Luangpor Liam has. So if anyone hasn't read that, I would suggest go to one of our websites, look up No Worries, Luangpor Liam, and you'll see his biography there. But so the question is there a moment in the practice which can be called enlightened moment? Well, all moments are in context. They're not just out there in space on their own. So I think another question would be, what's the context, or what are the causes and conditions? Because that's what we usually say. What are the causes and conditions for that kind of freedom? Well, I was speaking with Venerable Adicito just now. Sorry. Um, and I was asking him about, he's been taking care of Ajahn Nippon, who is a Thai monk who loves to do building work, and unfortunately had a tragic accident where he was on a ladder, got electrocuted, fell off the ladder, and broke his neck. So now he's paralyzed. And I think 3 years ago, he was not in a vegetative state, but he couldn't move. Now he can lift himself and go to the toilet, but he still uses an electric wheelchair. So Venerable Adicitto took care of him for 7 months just now. I found it very inspiring, and among other things. But how does that contribute to the moment of enlightenment? Chimai? That, to me, that's a significant thing in abandoning selfishness and developing a heart which has some joy in it. Your inspiring efforts in Nan province, those moments of stress that you had and the moments of joy, how does that contribute to the moment of enlightenment? And so on and so forth. So the context um, of enlightenment is must be a very complex issue. What kind of childhood did Luangpor Liam have? Well, apparently his sister's pretty enlightened lady, and family's very quiet, and he lived in a very moral atmosphere. Another person, what kind of family life did they have? And so many other factors. So then to the second question, should one have a goal of not having to come back? You don't want to get into some kind of nihilism. I hate living, goodbye, cruel world, because that would just be a sort of dosa mindset. So, but I, so I take it not in terms of I don't want to get born again. I take it more, I'd like to be like Luangpor Cha, or I'd like to, uh, you know, um, understand Luangpor Liam's profound enlightenment. It's the same aim, I would say, probably, but the targeting is much more positive. So that question about rebirth, I don't really go there because I figure rebirth will take care of itself, however that works. And I've done everything I can to live a good life. So why worry about it? And if rebirth isn't there, why worry about it? So it seems to me, why worry about it? So then, if I wasn't living a good life or something, then it'd be different. But I have a good, fortunate life. So then, how to approach that question? Well, then, as I've been saying, my approach to it is there is the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unoriginated, the unborn. There is enlightenment. There is nibbana. There is peace. And trying to understand that uh, is a way where the sense of me in time being born doesn't really arise. It's a very immediate kind of investigation and question, and it fits in the way the texts are described, and it would be what Arya Pugala means, enlightened being. So what would be the context of that moment of enlightenment? Well, if you then read Luangpor Liam's piece, his capacity to be aware moment by moment by moment by moment over long periods of time is astounding. But when you read it, he's not talking about trance. He certainly has uh, like hugely beautiful experiences, but he's always aware of them, always right through. And I guess all of us who have read that, anyone who's a practitioner, you say, okay, what's he doing? What's his method? What's the technique? How's he doing this? And as I read it through, there are profoundly blissful experiences, which he says are indescribable. But always at the end of a day, he says, and I just stayed with the mindfulness. I just stayed with the mindfulness. And then I think the second last day, he has these um, surprisingly exhausted. He's surprisingly exhausted. If you remember reading that piece, he's walking on the walking meditation path, and he collapses and he gets up again, and he runs into a thorn bush and then gets up again. He just keeps at it. And the next day, I think it's 2 days later, maybe the enlightenment. So What I take away from that is his profound capacity to stay in the moment and 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 practice anicca dukkha anatta, I would say, or non-grasping. That's what it seems to me. But his barami for doing that, if you've read it, I think he walks for 12 hours, something, something like that. And he says, that was sufficient. Oh, yeah, really. Now, first of all, just to put that kind of effort forth without greed, that's really hard. Whenever I've, not whenever, especially in my younger days, excuse me, in my younger days when I tried these very all night practices or whatever, I wanted something so badly that it couldn't possibly work. And Luangpor and others just moderating you. Well, your expectations are too high. You have to train your mind first. You have to develop barmi. You have good intention, but you're not a Buddha yet. Come on, your mind's a mess. You've never trained your mind. It wasn't an insult. It was a true description. And so that was very sobering. And maybe we've all had that kind of sobering. Well, this is not as easy as it looks. Um, so the ideas of building parami, I think, are very profound. So the parami you build in philanthropic work, serving the community, adicito, kubanat, building parami in that way. I think all of that contributes to the enlightened mind. Must do. And how about meditation then? Where in the context of this lovely retreat, I admire your silence. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. um, what might we do to create the causative conditions for that moment? Trust in Dhamma and leave the rest to Kamma. How's that one? What's Dhamma? Well, if we expand trust and awareness, trust in awareness of anicca dukkha anatta. So the teaching that we have is uh, we say it's a raft. It takes you to the other shore. Or because I'm into craft, I see it as a set of very good tools. Um, Now, that's important because the craft of liberation is something that you do in experience. It's not an opinion. So when we leave when the texts are just taken from a position like an opinion, like if I say it's anatta, I mean, what do you mean by that? So I just have a Buddhist opinion as opposed to a Christian opinion. So why did you fall Viradhammo last year? Well, the rationalists will say, well, because it was raining and you're an old man and you slipped. Another person might say, Buddhists will say, well, last lifetime you poked a monk in the head and now you broke your shoulder. And in Islam, they would say it's Allah's will. And then in Christianity, Jesus saves or something like that. I'm not sure. But those just opinions. You don't really know. So you don't want to, you want to, I would say, anicca dukkha anatta are tools, or first of all, they're perceptions, or they're ways of interpreting our experience. So let's say I'm meditating and I just feel really, really restless, fidgety all the time. And I say to myself, be patient, this will change. So now I'm using anicca sanya as a kind of reminder to practice Dhamma, trust in Dhamma. That seems simple enough, but if I can do it for 24 hours, pretty cool, huh? or my mind starts to plan what I'm going to do when I get back to Canada, say, and I'll do this, and don't go there, dukkha. So I get a way of contemplating dukkha. It's unsatisfactory. Don't go there. Yeah, but then I don't go there. But don't go there. So now I'm taking the characteristic of unsatisfactoriness, figuring out what would that mean in my own practice. It would mean don't pick anything up. Don't pick up any thoughts. Don't pick up projects. Don't pick up ideas. Let go of thinking. And maybe the very simple way I would do that for my own practice would be don't go there. So that I'm taking the word dukkha, I've contemplated in terms of the unconditioned. I realize that picking up thought is a condition. If I pick up thought, my mind's going to be preoccupied. I won't be available to the unconditioned. So don't go there. So there's a whole train of logic and insight, which then informs its simple statement, don't go there. It's not repressive because I've done that. That doesn't work. But it's also helping me to constantly awaken. Oh, this is all conditions are dukkha. They're unsatisfactory in terms of the liberated mind. Anatta. So let's see, I insult one of the monks. I keep coming back to that. It's not a better example. Well, let's say something. I don't feel good about it, and my mind starts to create a sense of self. I said, not me, not mine. Oh yeah, but you shouldn't have been like, not me, not mine. Yeah, but not me, not mine. So now I figure out in my own way what anatta might point to in my in my experience. Then I figure out a word. So figuring it out is samaditi. I figure out what that word anatta means in terms of my moment by moment practice in meditation. From that understanding, then I create language, sammasankappa, to help me practice that insight. So I'm practicing insight. So, my mind goes out, not me, not mine, not me, not mine. So, not me, not mine. Don't go there. It'll change. Maybe 3 ways of trust in Dhamma, leave the rest to karma. Now, if I could, so if those ways of consideration, they're not just opinions, are they? I really kind of considered what those words are, and I considered how my mind works. And then that is one of the aspects of insight. Maybe it's obviously not Luangpor Liam's liberation, but it is um, approaching life through the sanya of Buddha Dhamma, through the perceptions that the Buddha recommended would be helpful for liberation. So it has a dog doctrinal uh, uh, structure to it. We all agree on that doctrine as Buddhists, but it's an implementation. It's not just an opinion. I'm not just trying to condition myself to be a Buddhist as opposed to whatever. That's just more. That's just Silabhata Paramasa. I speak in Buddhist ways rather than Christian ways. Not that they're wrong, but actually, I want this teaching to liberate the mind. So you have some intellectual engagement with the ideas. From that engagement, you kind of get, oh yeah, I get it. Okay. And you ask your teacher, you look at the books. Okay, I get what that's pointing to in the project of enlightenment. And then I apply it. Then I apply it. So the teachings are very pragmatic that way. That's why we say it's a raft. Once you're on the farther shore, you don't have to carry the raft around. Or like I like to think of it as tools. So you're implementing the teaching in the way you're thinking, in the way you're perceiving, in the language you use. So what would that do in a meditation? Well, if those principles of anicca anicca, dukkha, anatta are known all the time, then that's non-grasping, non-attachment. So the tendency to be kind of caught up with the conditioned is lessened, and then you're available to the unconditioned. But the mystery of the moment of Luangpor Liam's is a mystery. It when one reads about the great saints of the world, they all come upon it in different ways. But usually their intensity is very striking, whether it's a Christian mystic or a Buddhist mystic. So on this retreat, how can I, the very word intensity is a bit dangerous, isn't it? I'm going to be really intense this sitting, you get a headache. So what word might we use? Consistency? Um, Consistency of what? The way you pay attention and that you pay attention. Uh, so as I enter into each meditation, can I set up my mind with an attitude that wants to sustain this kind of Dharma awareness as long as possible? That I can do. And that's different than trying to get something, right? So it's a training, if you see it in a training. So even if I got to get lost in thought, I can just regroup and start again, regroup and start again, regroup and start again. I can do that and then that very way of doing it applies to sitting practice, applies to walking, applies to eating, to all the postures. So it's not simply one kind of meditation experience, and then trying to get a continuity of that. And that's doable. Now, if you can do what Lompo Liam's done, you're an extraordinary being. Your bar me is like through the roof, right? So remain humble, yeah? But diligent, I would say, yeah. Humble but diligent. Like do what you can, uh, and don't hurt yourself. Because I think a lot of us have pushed ourselves in some meditation periods, and then we don't want to do it for a whole year because it was too fierce. It was um, too aggressive and too goal oriented. And then, so you have to, if I think for this marathon that we're in, it has to be somehow have some aspect of pleasantness in it. It can't just be grit your teeth and don't move for the next 10 hours because you just won't last. So how do you bring pleasantness into it? Well, I would say um, changing postures when it's just too difficult. But you can still be aware. You can still be aware. Brahma Viharas, bit of humor is good. Uh, um, and then recollecting your good works, the responsible your responsibilities, how you fulfilled them, like recollecting wholesomeness. If you have a kind of strong devotional heart, recollecting the life of the Buddha, say Venerable Amasiri in Tisarana, he has a very devotional heart, and so he can very easily visualize uh, gurus or Buddha images and things like that, and really get his mind very, very high in the midst of, well, you just got his cast off, and it's looking good. He had a very serious operation, and he can't put any weight on his ankle for 6 weeks. So this was 2 weeks, and they took the cast off. So this is good. But so anyway, he has, from his Indian background, he has a kind of a sada charita, like a really, really beautiful faith heart. So he can use that to brighten his mind, and make it quite rise above a lot of physical pain he has. So that's that's character. I do that. I'll think of Luangpor Liam or a lot of Luangpor Smedo. Bring up gratitude to all of you, really And those are I think very important. They kind of lighten the heart, don't they? Gratitude is a great thing to bring into the mind, not just when someone gives you a cup of tea, right? But actually to, yeah, yeah, wow, look at what we're doing here. Isn't it amazing? Aren't we amazing? Which isn't conceit. So bringing up gratitude, Brahmaviharas. Again, I use imagery a lot, imagery of people that I love, and to lighten the heart. Then you can do a lot of formal meditation. But if it's just trying to control the mind and, oh, I gotta be more sharp, or my mind's wandering too much. It's too neurotic. It doesn't work. And this kind of a balance we're all looking for, I think. We're all trying to find. Um, and on this retreat, I would say try not to pick up thought. Just that simple. Don't repress thought, but we're in the middle of the retreat, and now the mind starts to go home, right? And what's next? What am I going to do? And so it starts to pick up the future and planning or whatever. Not necessarily. So if you just make that the simple practice of not picking up the world, put the world down. The world will come at you. Don't worry. You, you'll have to pick it up in a few days' time. But for this period of time, as the mind is seeking something to do, that's what it's doing, isn't it? And then it creates this interesting thought or this worrisome thought, and you're reborn into it. You pick it up and you're reborn into it. So to kind of just make the intention, no, just keep your consciousness unfurnished. How's that? Because all those thoughts are furniture. So why don't you like do what? Let's say everyone likes minimalism, right? Everyone's into black or white. I think that's what I see. So what's the minimalist approach is don't furnish your mind with thoughts, or don't go there, or don't pick up the world. Don't reject the world. So these, let's say I mean, the way it works, an interesting creative idea comes into my mind, and then that's the hook. It's interesting, or it could be worrisome too. But let's say it's interesting, and then wow, that way, and you're hooked into it. You're reborn psychologically, and so that's picking up the world. Now, that's not immoral. There's nothing terribly wrong about that, and no one's going to know. It's your own secret little mental space. But keep in mind that, that idea I use of availability. If my attention is always preoccupied with thoughts, memories, objects, then objects are anicca dukkha anatta. They're unsatisfactory. So my mind is not available to the unconditioned. My attention is on conditions called thoughts and memories and time, and the timeless, the Kalika Dhamma, always here now, always here and now, means that I'm available to the present moment. And I think that really is the the greatest cause, say, for the liberation of the mind is that capacity to be very, very present and open to the way things are in a long span of time. So then the rest is, I think, a mystery. Is a mystery, I think. So today is what, Wednesday, I think, yeah. No one knows. What month is it? I think today's, you're the manager. You should know. Is today Wednesday? Someone better know. So yeah, I think in the middle of the retreat, it's good to kind of reaffirm aditana. Yeah, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And I won't get this chance after Monday. I'm going to be really busy. So rather than worrying about being really busy or wanting to be really busy, no. Let's just a few more days. Just a few more days. Keep with it. I think I covered it. And may I just touch one more question there? Uh, this is from the online people. For the Luangpor, for practice of metta bhavana, you talked about starting with using the right object to stimulate the heart chakra. How do I tell I am ready to move on to next step as I'm extending metta to my loved ones? I think there's a kind of misunderstanding about metta bhavana, and that you're sending metta to someone. That's prayer, but that's not what we're doing here. You can do it, go for it. Um, we're developing wholesome states of mind, and it really doesn't matter what you think about. If it brings up a sense of metta, then you have that wholesome state of mind, and you want to keep that going. So you can think about Bruno. You've seen that's a new dog, Bruno. Oh, Bruno, nice. And I'm not. I'm just sending Bruno, Bruno. That's not what I'm doing. And I think you know the story that I've I tell this most retreats. So I was teaching a retreat in Auckland, and two ladies who are really good practitioners, bodhisattva minds. One, I asked her, Benita, how's the metta going? Metta Bhavana. He says, I'm exhausted. I got a big family. Like she was doling out the chapatis to everyone, right? No, Benita just and the other one was even. It was during the war in Yugoslavia where the NATO was bombing. What's the city in Yugoslavia? Come on, which city? Anyway, and this one was sending metta to all the people that are getting bombed, and she was crying. Why are you crying? "Uh, I just sent so much metta, but it's not working. The war's still going. No, so what we're doing is we're stimulating an attitude or a feeling of loving kindness in the heart. And we're using imagery that connects us to that feeling. So it's a very internal process. It's not really kind of sending or praying. Again, you can do that, but maybe at tea time, it's some other time. So it really doesn't matter if you stay with one person or so the only reason I changed the imagery was more to refresh your heart with another image. That's all. Right. You, how many sisters do you got? You're gonna go through all the sisters. So then I think after a while you don't really need any imagery. You're just there. You just know what that feeling is and you sustain that. So to that person's question, um, just get the feeling going as you can and then see how you can sustain it. Don't worry about targeting everyone. Okay, I think I'll leave it there.